Oh, truth. How long have you had a week back? Since about a week back. I've done me back, folks. It's not pleasant, but anyway, gotta harden up. Today I want to talk to you about buzzbaits. Have you ever caught a Murray cod on a buzzbait, or have you ever used a buzzbait, or do you want to know how to use a buzzbait? Stay tuned and I'm going to show you how. Rightio folks, here in my hand I am holding a Bassman buzzbait. This is a surface spinnerbait, designed for surface fishing, but it's not a hard body lure. It's actually more like a spinnerbait. I'll bring it up closer so you can have a bit of a look. There it is. It is a propeller, similar to what you would find on any fizzer sort of type surface lure. It's got this little keel. Then down the back of the wire frame there's a skirt, a lead head and a skirt, and obviously the hook, and sometimes there can be a soft plastic on there as well. Now how this works is that the current, as this passes through the water, the current makes that propeller go round, and it also forces this little keel to sit back, straight back, and hit up on that propeller, which creates a noise, if I can get it to do it. It's a bit hard out here because as soon as I put pressure on it, it stops turning. That's the noise that it makes. So it's a surface spinnerbait. The water normally sits about there, right across the middle, and that dangles underneath the water at the back. This attracts the fish's attention. It comes up and it sees this little white fishy or whatever it is swimming behind it. Bang. So there you go. A surface spinnerbait known as a buzzbait. These are an underrated lure in my opinion. They have their place. They have pros and cons. There's only really two things that I don't like about them, and I'll mention them first. They do sink. They're a sinking lure. It's impossible to make a spinnerbait that floats. In saying that, you can use that to your advantage, and I'll tell you how in a moment. The second thing I don't like so much about it, and it doesn't affect the fishing or the effectiveness of the lure, is that quite often the strike, which we often call a boof, a surface strike from a Murray cod, quite often it's not as spectacular with a buzzbait as what it is with, say, a hard body lure like a Coolabung cod walker, or even a Z-Man pop frog or something like that, where the lure is on the surface and the cod has to come all the way up. Because this hook is down a little bit under the surface, it just allows the cod not to have to break the water as much when it comes. You still get a bit of a splash and a commotion. If it's a real aggressive strike, you'll still get a full-on boof, and it'll frighten the crap out of you like they tend to do. But yes, that doesn't affect the effectiveness. If anything, it actually increases the hookup rate. I find I have a pretty good hookup rate with these buzzbaits, but you don't get that as much of a boof as what you do with a surface lure a lot of the time. Now, I mentioned that it sinks, and I also mentioned that that's not all that bad. Quite often, over the years, I've learned that when a cod hits my surface lure, my surface popper or my surface soft plastic, if it fails to hook up after 4 or 5 times and then disappears, quite often you can take your lure off, put on a hard body diver like a stump jumper or something similar, or you can even put on a spinnerbait and cast it out to where that fish was, and quite often he'll come back out and hit your subsurface lure, despite being reluctant to come to the surface and hit your surface popper. With these, if you're reeling it along and you get a boof or a couple of boofs that don't hook up, you can practice the dead hands technique, which I talked about in a video last week, but you can see on this little box up here. With these, the moment you get a boof, you can pause. If the line doesn't pull tight, if the fish isn't on, this will sink, this won't float. So the cod won't come back and boof it again while it sits there idle like it will a surface lure. However, it will hit this while it sinks. Anybody that's used spinnerbaits to catch Murray cod will tell you that Murray cod are more than happy to hit a spinnerbait as it sinks, particularly a 2 or 4 bladed spinnerbait that helicopters down, like a Bassman 4x4 or a Bassman DT or something like that. The Murray cod will also hit these buzzbaits as they're sinking. And if that doesn't happen, you can let it sink a foot or so, and it takes a few seconds because it's a very slow sinker. Then you can slowly begin the retrieve, and it'll make that vibrating noise under the water. and it'll still attract fish while it's under the water, and you can then get a subsurface strike just like you would if you unclipped your surface lure and put a diver on or a spinnerbait. The thing is, you're saving yourself time by having one on that already sinks naturally anyway, and you're also saving having to carry a second fishing rod. And everything else pretty much about this is the same as any other surface lure. You cast it out, you fish it like you would a Coolabung cod walker or a Z-Man pop frog or something like that. One of the things I really love about surface fishing is that you can fish more water. You can go into those really snaggy spots. I actually like to seek out holes that aren't too deep, quite shallow bits of water with heaps of logs and branches and stuff. The sort of places that you wouldn't dream to cast a stump jumper or a spinnerbait or something in. I like to look for those sort of spots, and of an evening just bring my surface lure across the top, because I know those fish haven't seen as many lures, and you can do that every bit as effectively with a buzzbait as what you can with a Coolabung cod walker or any other type of surface popper. They're all pretty much of a muchness, and it comes down to personal preference. Here's some video footage that I took earlier this week on a night where the cod were reluctant to strike anything, and yet they come out and they hit the buzzbait and they wouldn't hit anything else. One of them nights. Got him on the buzzbait. Oh, he's only tiny. He is tiny. I'm going to wet my hand. And look at the size of this cod that I've just caught on this buzzbait. Absolutely tiny. I'm going to get a quick photo with my mobile phone. That is just amazing. How hungry must they be to hit a buzzbait that big? Hey, look at that. Now quickly now, my left hand is wet, in case you didn't see it. I'm going to unhook him and let him go straight back. I was going to place him back, but he had other ideas. The old buzzbait, hey? Got him! Yeah, this is a bit bigger than the last one, but he's still not a very big fish. He came out of exactly the same snag as that last fish I just caught. They must be stacked up. I'm just wetting my hand. Right. Look at that, they must be stacked up down there. He's quite a bit bigger. He is probably around the 35 centimetre mark, I'd say. It wouldn't be 40, but he's bigger than 30. Somewhere around 35 centimetres, I'm guessing. Get a quick snap of him. And I'll put him back as well. And the Bassman buzzbait. Cleaning up tonight. I hope the camera's picking this up, the video camera, because it's getting dark. I'll unhook him now. One good thing about spinnerbaits is that you can actually unhook them easier without the use for pliers. There you go, buddy. Oh, shit, same thing as the last one. The moment the hook's out of their mouth, they take off. Well, there's two in about 5 minutes, both off out of exactly the same spot. Can I get a hat trick? I've only made 2 casts. This is my 3rd cast to that snag tonight. Can I get a hat trick? Big appeal, and this missed out on the hat trick. The umpire's given it not out.